Hello and welcome to the Salt City Gamescast. This is episode 142. My name is Nick Nader. Sitting across from me is Jared Alm.
Hello.
And we are sponsored by 99 Pineapples today.
We sure fucking are, man. You're welcome for this gift that keeps on giving.
You know, I don't remember how many episodes ago it was, but
yeah,
maybe in the middle of the summer. You brought this over. I also don't remember how someone had them and they just gave you multiple bottles or something.
Right. Yeah.
And so you brought it over and we did a shot of it, and that was a mistake.
It was a horrible experience.
One of the worst shots I've ever had in my life, really. And then at that time, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to come back. And I'm going to at least try to find something redeemable to use this product for.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. I've made a cocktail. It's called Do Not Disturb. It did not call for 99 pineapples as a substitution that has been made.
Okay.
But vodka, ounce and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Half ounce of vermouth, which was weird.
Okay.
Half ounce of 99 pineapple, which is probably the right amount. And then some 3/4 lemon juice and half ounce of honey syrup, like honey simple syrup, easy enough to make.
What was the substitute, or what is the?
It still asks for a pineapple like liqueur.
Okay.
Or a pineapple juice. So we've just added 99 pineapples, which is higher proof.
Right.
And terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's good pineapple liqueur out there, but
yeah, I don't know.
Here we are.
It's definitely the worst product made by Buffalo Trace.
This is about the Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure fucking is.
Okay. You know, I don't know that I would necessarily be out ordering these things. But if a bunch of friends come over and I want to get rid of a bottle, this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it is definitely. We're rolling into fall here, so this is definitely not the fall flavor profile. This is more summer drink, but it is fine. Like I don't mind it at all. I wouldn't go out of my way and say this is excellent, but it is much better than the core product, right? So you fucking did it. You succeeded.
Yeah, it's absolutely better than the core product. It's still got the thing I don't like is really just flavored liqueurs. I don't think they're very good.
Okay.
And I like cocktails with the juice
and
then like the booze.
Well, give me an example of a flavored liqueur. I don't know if this really falls into that category.
Well, they're all terrible.
Well, what about like Aperol?
Like, okay, so maybe they're not all terrible.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of like these basic vodka substitute shit.
Okay.
Like raspberry, but like all
okay. Are you talking more like the flavored vodka?
Yeah.
Oh,
probably.
okay. Yeah. No, that shit's not redeemable. I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you mix it right, it's not bad. I mean, it
Sure.
gets the job done. You can make some good cocktails with that stuff.
I think the reason I don't like it is the pineapples are artificial, and I can kind of feel like when I taste it, I'm just like, yeah, it's gonna have some fake ass pineapple in there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think that it would be incredibly difficult to make something as potent as this actually tastes like a real fucking pineapple.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
But
I think that it was the right amount of time for you to kind of do your research, really think this through, because that first experience was very negative, Nick.
I don't know. As you can see, there's still a lot left in the bottle.
Yeah, it's like full.
It's so I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. Something else of note, you'll notice you have a really large sphere.
Uh-huh.
I gave money to a Kickstarter a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is it makes a clear ice sphere, and it's really large, and it's like in a bottle that can be in your door in the freezer.
Okay.
Where the ones I have for cubes, it takes up a lot of space. Everything's great, except it doesn't fucking work. So besides that,
it looks fairly clear.
Fairly, yes. Fairly is the word.
Okay.
That's the problem. It's just it wasn't cheap. And it's fairly clear. And if you go on the Kickstarter comments, other people are kind of upset that it's fairly clear as well.
Okay.
They're like, what the fuck? Because the video doesn't show fairly clear.
It's clear.
That thing's absolutely clear. And I'm just
clear
like,
as a crystal.
How the hell did you do it? Like, what am I supposed to do? I've used like distilled water. I've tried all these different things, and it always has these.
Aren't you supposed to use warm water?
Yeah, I've tried that too. So anyway, it's fine. I'm just a little irritated because it really makes a real large sphere that I'm real stoked on. And
I mean, it looks very symmetrical.
yeah,
It looks like what you're looking for from a
absolutely.
sphere. Here's my question, Nick, and this is a bigger question. And I'm sure I'm not going to like the answer, but why does it matter? What is there any like tangible benefit to having clear ice other than like you're bougie as fuck?
Presentation.
Okay.
I mean, obviously it's
Got it.
presentation. The big ice cube, there actually is a reason to use it because it melts slower.
Well, yeah, I understand that.
And that's great. But I really like it. I actually prefer the cube, just the look of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have all that stuff, so I'm still fine. I was just like really excited to be able to not have to take up so much space in the freezer.
I didn't really connect the dots here, but I think that you would do very well in Japan. Because they're all about like presentation, regardless of whether it's cocktails or anything. Like that's a big part of their culture.
Well, I think someone just posted to the Discord. Was that from Japan?
Yeah.
That was basically a dude making incredible cocktails.
He's
like,
super famous.
Incredible.
He's like a super famous bartender somewhere in Japan, and he posts on like TikTok and social media his like process, and it is like beyond bougie and excessive, but it's also very cool because it's like it's an art form, right? And he takes it very seriously. He also uses like I can't remember what the word is for a small katana, a daichi, maybe. I don't know. I might be wrong about that. But he fucking cuts the ice with a fucking small samurai sword, which is hilarious and so unnecessary, but also awesome. He's like very precise with his cuts as well. It makes kind of like this diamond shaped ice for his cocktails. But yeah, he's fairly viral.
Well, just so you know, you are in the same boat as my wife, who also is just like, why are you, how much did you spend on that? And I was like, let's not worry about values. Dollar, it's the art, all right?
No.
And she's like, well, it doesn't fucking work either. So how much did you spend on it?
Yeah, you take a big L on this one for sure. But I'm definitely not being critical. I'm just I want to understand because like there may be a legitimate reason to have clear ice. Like it instills some sort of something into the drink. I think that sounds ridiculous even coming out of my fucking mouth.
No,
but
that's not it.
Yeah, but it's a good.
Yeah,
I think it's doing its job. How many ice balls can you fit in this thing at once?
Only one, but it makes it fast. So
how fast?
Well, a day.
A day.
The big one is a day and a half. Like,
oh God!
Look, a lot goes into this shit. All right. I need a machine, and they sell those too, but I really don't want to spend that money and then have it not work. So I haven't bought a machine.
Well, Dan the man has one.
He's got I don't know if those are clear. I know there's spheres. I don't know if they're clear.
Okay.
We'll have to circle up with them.
But you just think about it. You know, drop some money down on that, and then you just have ice balls coming out of a machine at your house.
I don't think I'm going to be the one that gets to pick our fridge. Yeah. When we get a new fridge.
You don't get to have input? Input into it?
Well, sure, but that's a very specific fridge.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's true.
And I just don't even know if I want to bring that topic up in my house.
I mean, you could float it. Maybe this is your opportunity to float it because I think your wife listens to this sometimes.
I'll put it out here. I don't know. But anyway, this drink is perfect, really, because we're just working you back into the Salt Lake area because you just got back from friggin' Hawaii.
Yeah. Friggin' Hawaii, man.
How were the cocktails over there?
Very good. That's one thing that I will say that they've got down. If you're into tiki drinks, we kind of searched out and tried to find like a couple of bars and breweries while we were there. And ironically, we went for a wedding, and one of the wedding activities was at this like tiki bar on Waikiki beach. And so we went there and spent $45 per, Mai Tai.
Oh, Lord.
But goddamn, were they delicious. But I got to keep the glass, Nick, so it all makes sense.
You should have brought it. I could have put your drink in there.
Yeah. It's not that impressive. It's just like a pint glass with a tiki man on the side of it.
I feel obligated to bring it all the way back to the States.
Well, I didn't want to. But my girlfriend was like, "Do you have room in your suitcase for this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." So yeah, it's back here, safe in Salt Lake City. But Oahu did a week in Oahu, and had a lovely time. I don't really have any negatives to highlight about the city and the people there. It was all good, and it's gorgeous. The only thing that I would say is I was fucking miserable with like the heat, and the more to the point, the humidity.
Wrong time of the year, kind of.
Just fucking brutal, man.
I haven't gone at that time. It's always been a few months later.
Yeah.
And it's I have not had that complaint when I've gone. It's always been pretty nice.
It was like 87 to 90% humidity each day we were there.
Seems
I played golf multiple times while I was there and just sweat and was miserable the entire time. There were moments where like get-togethers and things like that for the wedding where everyone was like having a good time, and Ashley, my girlfriend, would be like, "Hey," and like that, and met these people. This is Jared, and I'm just like over there, fucking like pouring sweat out of my face, and I'm just like, "Hi, I'm really having a hard time with this humidity." And some people were like, "Oh yeah, me too," and I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, "I don't think you're having the same problem I am, man.
You seem fine."
I was just like covered in sweat the entire time. Anytime I walked outdoors, I was just miserable. And you know, I've been in humidity before. I don't know what it was about this trip in particular, but I was fucking dying, dude. So, but that's not a knock on Hawaii. You can't fucking control that.
Sure.
It's in the middle of the fucking ocean. So, it kind of comes with the territory. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time. I think, I would definitely go back, but I probably wouldn't go back to what and stay on Waikiki. We went to like the North Shore of Oahu, and that is much more my jam. It's slower paced over there, and also beautiful beaches, a lot more country, I would say.
Yeah.
Waikiki and Honolulu in particular is just, it kind of reminded me of like Pacific fucking Las Vegas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lots of, you know, tourist attractions or traps, a lot of kind of grifters and people trying to scam you.
That's the worst.
Lots of dudes with like parrots on their shoulder, kind of exploiting them to make a quick buck. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was still a good time. Like there's some very nice areas, and the food there is very good, especially for me because there is such a large Japanese population, Asian population in general, but the Japanese in particular have really embraced that area. You know, it's a very quick flight from Japan, relatively speaking, to Hawaii. So it's usually the first kind of, you know, place that the Japanese will go to come to America, right? And so because of that, there is a lot of, you know, businesses that cater to their preferences and tastes, which just so happen to be my preferences and tastes by and large. So incredible Japanese food. I did a lot of research and found some fucking fire ass restaurants while we were there. I don't think I had anything that was bad the entire time as far as like food goes.
Nice, because there are still traps out there. Like you can still go into places where the food is going to be pretty mediocre. We've kind of learned our lesson just on traveling in general that you just shouldn't be, hey, there's a place to eat, let's wander in there, unless you really don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah,
if you're going for a burger, you're fine, but like
I usually do the research and like to educate myself on what it is, why I might want it. The only time that I will throw that to the wayside is if there's a fucking line. If there's a line of people, that's generally a good sign. And I learned that in Asia as well.
Sure.
It's not as popular of a thing in the United States because I think we're a little less patient. But if you go to like Japan, China, anywhere in Asia, if there's a fucking line, you want to eat that.
That's the place.
That's the place to go. Yes. So, yeah, really happy with that process and just that experience. It was a great experience. And, you know, I you know, we talked about Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth earlier in the year. That takes place on Waikiki largely. And I got to give them credit for recreating that whole little area that you kind of traverse in the game. Because I literally, the first time I've ever fucking been there, and I literally thought that I had been in these places before.
Everyone was on Vespas.
There was no
Vespa.
Yeah. Or no, they're Segways.
There we are.
Yeah.
What's a Vespa?
A Vespa is a little Italian scooter.
Oh,
yeah. No, there was no Segways. I didn't see one Segway, ironically. None. But just like I don't know. The Duke is like the famous statue that's kind of in the middle of Waikiki, who's like a famous surfer that's like kind of the godfather of surfing in Hawaii. People put lays on him, and it's very iconic. And it's in the game, right? Our hotel was literally across the street from there, so we're like dead center in the middle of Waikiki. And I mean, just walking around that fucking place, I was like, I feel like I've been here before, which is wild. And I think that's kind of a cool element of video games.
So in the game, people attack you every 30 seconds. Did you have any of that?
No physical altercations. I had a guy hit on my girlfriend while I was there in front of me.
Great.
So that was a little awkward. I think that he was fairly harmless, though.
Yeah, sure.
He also was with a girl. So
well, hey,
I don't know if he was like, it definitely seemed like he was hitting on her, but
just line them up.
Yeah. Fucking Casanova over here, Hawaiian Casanova. But other than that, like, I didn't really have any like bad experiences with people, the locals, but it is heavily touristy, situation. So you kind of have to deal with it. I swam in the ocean. It was like a bathtub. So
did not cool you off?
Fuck no. No, like for the first second that you get in, you're like, sweet relief. And then it's like, this water is 74 degrees.
Now I'm just sweating in water. I was sweating out of water.
Yeah. But like for people that enjoy water sports, surfing and things like that, you can't fucking beat that.
For sure.
You don't have to wear a wetsuit out there. You just get in the water and have a good time. I just don't understand how fish survive in that water. Like, it's shocking to me that there are creatures that thrive in such warm, salty water.
Well, they probably only have to go down 30 feet to probably better, right?
And like if you get offshore, I'm pretty sure the water, when it gets deeper, it gets colder for sure. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that's worth noting. I mean, it was a pretty uneventful, well, at least that I can talk about on the podcast. We talked about some stuff off the podcast.
Yeah. My experience in Hawaii is, as far as alcohol goes, is no good beer. None. I've tried every time I've gone there.
Yeah.
No, sorry, local breweries don't mean to be mean, but like they don't got it.
So I would never go. Okay. So I tried hard. I went to 2 or 3 different breweries while I was there, all of the highest rated ones, right? One of them was Maui Brewing Company, which imports or exports, I should say, all of the beer to like the mainland. So you can find those pretty easily, but they had a lot of like local beers that you couldn't get anywhere else besides the brewery. And they weren't bad, but they also weren't like, holy shit, this is good.
There's just nothing. They're forgettable. There's just nothing there that's very redeeming or exciting.
That one was on Waikiki. So I was like, okay, let's venture out a little bit further. Let's go to like a local place that's kind of off the beaten path. So I went to a place called Beer Lab, Hawaii. And the space itself, incredible. Like it's in this like industrial area in Honolulu. And they've got really like it's like an outdoor bar. So, which works because it's nice there most of the time. But they like had all these murals painted like on the inside from like all these local different artists. That was really cool. So people displaying their artwork, and just the vibe was really nice. It would be a great place to kind of hang out with your friends. They had like lawn games and board games to play and things like that. And they also serve poke. That was like their hook, which that is a redeemable product. That shit fucking slaps.
Yeah. You like poke bowl, or what'd you do?
I did a poke bowl twice while I was there, and each time I was like, "Hoo-wee!"
Yeah, it's just
imagine this place in the middle of the ocean has good seafood. Wow, crazy. But the beer was terrible. Like, it was not redeemable. Like, they were doing a lot of interesting kind of like wild things. But nothing that really, I had like 3.
Yeah.
And it was the last day we were there, but I was also like, I think I've had enough.
You're like,
let's go to the airport. So
get the fuck out of here.
But yeah, I would definitely go back again. And it was a good time overall. So
sweet. Well, welcome back. While you were gone, Sony had a 9-minute announcement. They brought Mark Cerny out, he does day to day, but he came out and he announced the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it's stronger, and he talked about how everyone they don't like that people have to make the choice on the PlayStation games about what is it fidelity
frame rate.
or frame essentially, yeah. And they basically said everyone is picking frame rate, or a large portion of you are picking frame rate, and we really just want to make it so you don't have to, which I don't fucking believe. But so they have a new console and they're talking, and the lame thing about it, and I just can't believe that this is how it shook out, is that they're yeah, it's a strong, better console, and they only have it's making older games that have been out a year better because they didn't attach anything to it, right?
Right.
They didn't say, well, oh, by the way, here's Ghost of Tsushima 2, and here is what it can do. Like, they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They only just said, hey, it's gonna make all these older games better. And I think that's kind of probably a to me it should be a problem for the masses, but I'm just like, what the fuck? The next thing they said is that it's $700. What are your thoughts on $700 for that?
I mean,
No disk drive.
right. You can get an optional disc
Sure.
drive, which is tax on an additional $80. So it's almost an $800 console at that point in time. I think the price point is ridiculous, and it is kind of the sign of our times, and the way that things are just too goddamn expensive. But realistically, the writing was kind of on the wall. I think people were kind of naysaying when people prominent in games media came out, before it was announced, being like, "Look, the base model has not gone down in price. If you look at historical precedent, typically when there's going to be a mid life refresh of a hardware, they lower the price on the base hardware. That did not happen. So, you're looking at a $500 console for the base model. So obviously the Pro, it was never going to be cheaper than the base model. It was going to always be more expensive. That being said, I'm not saying that that's acceptable. I think that it is a price point that is going to price out a lot of people. Either it's going to price them out, they won't be able to afford it, or they will reject wholesale a almost $1,000 piece of hardware.
So I guess my argument is doesn't matter because it's not the new PlayStation, and maybe there's an argument that maybe it'll never matter because I think these consoles are going to continue to be backwards compatible. But I saw a number that was something like the PlayStation 4 Pro. It was like 17% or something. Um, I don't think its purpose is to necessarily be the seller. I think they know that there are enthusiast fans, and they know that they will sell X amount. Probably to me, for what it's worth, and like they just know that they can do that, and the specs and everything, it sounds great. It sounds like the type of thing that I want. And I'm just really struggling with, do I need to buy it in November? Because am I going to use it? If I buy it in November, am I going to use it for anything in November? And I don't know that I am. And they haven't announced shit. So the biggest thing that I know that I want that console for is for Grand Theft Auto, because that's the type of game that I'm like, you're probably going to want that horsepower. So I'm just kind of going back and forth on whether this is a day one purchase for me. I will absolutely try to get, they just also announced like the 30th anniversary, and that is old school PlayStation gray. They've got some pretty cool little controller ports or something that I just saw. They're kind of throwbacks. It's pretty good looking, or it's pretty cool. I would absolutely buy that, but they're only making like 12,000. So I'm just going to assume I'm not going to be able to get my hands on that one.
I would like that one too. It looks really slick. Definitely, in my opinion, better looking than the white. I think the console itself, if you look at the base model PS4 and then the Pro, while they do look similar, there are enough differences where you're like, okay, that looks like a different console, like fundamentally.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like they put fucking 3 black lines in the middle of it, and it looks like a PlayStation 5 Slim. So, and I've never been a fan of the look of the PlayStation 5. I think it's a big fat L for Sony from an aesthetic perspective. I think it's hideously ugly. So
once I saw the hotel comparison, that when it's vertical, it just looks like a fancy modern hotel.
Yeah.
I've never been able to move on from
Yeah.
that.
I mean, get back to your point of like, what does Mark Cerny do? That is what Mark Cerny does. You know,
Then where's the fuck's Knack 3, Mark? Because he was in charge of Knack.
Yeah.
He should have made that.
I'm just saying that that's what he does, right? Like he
Oh,
builds these and conceptualizes their hardware. And he's very, very good at what he does. I mean, you can't take anything away from Mark Cerny. I think he is like a visionary. And if you look at his track record, it is just like W after W after W for the most part. So,
I mean, the piece of hardware is something that I want. Like with just the specs and just where we're at in the lifetime of this thing, I'm like, hey, that's cool. I would like to get that thing. It's been a weird kind of generation, I think, as far as just releases. They've kind of been slow, especially if you're playing on PC, then you're playing certain games only on PC. So then the amount of games I've actually played on the PlayStation 5 is way less than what I played on the 4. It's like, I don't even know if it's half. It's probably less than half because it's just few and far between that I'm actually pulling that thing out and using it. But like, I do intend to finish Final Fantasy 7, and it's going to run better on that console, which guarantees you that I will not play Final Fantasy 7 until I have that console. Because I'm like, well, obviously I want it to be better, so sure.
Yeah, but I think that you need to pump the brakes with this expectation, right? Because what was the pitch of the PlayStation 5, right? The one that they delivered on was
8K.
hyper. No,
they said 8K.
I understand that they did, but the one thing that they actually delivered on was not 8K. It was a hyper fast hard drive.
Yeah.
And that thing is a revelation. That
For
thing is fucking incredible. Just how quickly it loads things. It's just like incredible from that perspective. But also, you know, they were saying that a large portion of the games that were going to come out, at least from a first party standpoint, were going to run at 60 frames a second. That did not happen, right?
No.
So the idea that they're saying, well, we can do it now is like,
I mean, it kind of happened, right? But you had to pick the mode, right?
Well, it depends on the game. Some games did not run at 60. There's some games that were locked at 30, right? So it's just like it was a toss up whether or not it was going to. And that, I think, especially when you get into like PC gaming and you kind of see what a PC can do, a high power PC, it's a harder sell for me where you're like, I don't want to play games in 30 frames a second. I know that's like kind of an elitist perspective for sure, but it is a noticeable difference. Like I don't care anything above 60. That's all superfluous. It's sweet to run something at 240 hertz and be like, wow, this thing's running smooth as butter. But
it's hard to go back.
60 is the benchmark for I want to play games in 60 frames a second. So if they can do that consistently, that's a big sell for me. I am just not convinced that that's actually going to be the way it works. Like I can't imagine, you know, there was a lot of rumors in regards to GTA in particular. People were like, well, what frame rate is that thing going to run at? And a lot of people in the industry were like, very unlikely that that thing's going to run on 60 on the base PS5, right?
You are this is the problem. They come out and they say, well, look, we got to get this thing's gonna be great. It's gonna be high frames per second. It's like you're fighting the battle never ends. As soon as developers have more power, they will utilize the power.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna work really well for the games that are already out.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be able to boost those things up, and you're really gonna see large benefits on that.
Mm-hmm.
But you tell me that like the final version of Final Fantasy 7 or something like that really doesn't still just take the power for itself and not just give you that 60. I don't buy it. You never win, you never lose, or you can't get past this fight. Everyone's getting a stronger computer at all times.
Right.
Just because you're releasing it today doesn't mean that in another year or two, like it's just, you're in the same discussion. You're not going to get away from it.
You're not wrong, but also we are dealing with the here and now, right? And the here and now is, yes, you're right. You know, I think that inherently devs are going to want to push the envelope if they're ambitious and want to make a good product. That is a big element of video games, is like pushing graphical fidelity, making games look prettier and prettier. And so people are going to shoot for that, obviously, but also The prospect of being able to run games on a console on your TV can support it, which most
Mhm.
TVs can at this point in time run games at 60 and above. Uh, that should be the benchmark for all games, right? And so, um, if they are saying that it's this frame generation technology that is similar to DLSS, or whatever fucking AMD calls theirs, FS2 or whatever the fuck it is,
FSR.
FSR, yeah, maybe that's it. That's fine. Like that's good. It's good that they're implementing something like that into a console. But yeah, I mean, going back to your point about there are certain enthusiasts, and this is an enthusiast product. I mean, you're not wrong about that either. But still, like outside of like the most hardcore people, I mean, I think Sony internally would be like, we'd love to sell, millions of these consoles. And they probably realistically, they're like, that's probably not going to happen, especially if we've got a lower end PS5 on the market. Um, but it's a hard pill to swallow.
Uh,
It's really difficult. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like,
well,
you can get a PC for $1,000 that maybe is comparable or
sure.
maybe slightly under this, and it's like the PC is just so many more options than a Sony branded console. So yeah, for me though, like if you're asking just like what I'm gonna do,
You buying this in November?
of course I'm gonna buy it in November, Nick. Of course. Of course, I'm hopefully addicted to this shit. Like, and I ultimately want to come and talk about it in some capacity on this show, and kind of figure out if Mark fucking did it. Did Mark do it? And
you don't have anything to test.
sure, I do. I've got a massive backlog of PlayStation 5 games, and you can run a game on the base model. I have a base model, so I can be like, okay, what's this running at? Okay, what's it running at here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think they should have lowered the price of the base model and then sold this thing for $600. I think that's the sweet point. They would have sold a lot more than that than they will, I think. But maybe I'm wrong.
There are. I want to know what this means for the future. I have a hard, even if this thing, I don't think Sony learns any lessons from this thing, because if it doesn't sell, this is a mid-generation console. I think it will sell enough for them. And I do not think that the next PlayStation 6, that means they set a bar. And I don't think they're going to experience PlayStation 3 backlash because of how this is being presented, which means that's the new number, at least, right, for a PlayStation product. And that is not great, but it is not necessarily all that shocking, I guess. Like anyone can go look at how expensive graphics cards are, and at some point you should probably be able to do that math in your head, right? But my first computer was a 1080 that I built when those came out, and I believe I spent 700 or something like that on the best graphics card on that day. Um, and now you're going to spend 50% more, 100% more than what I did then, right? And that was only 6 years ago, 7 years, something like that.
4090 will cost you $2,000.
So when you look at that and you're just like, well, it can't be that surprising to us that it's this expensive. Like, yeah, I agree that it totally sucks, but look at the market. Look at how expensive graphics cards are. If you want to be able to be somewhat in the same ballpark as a PC, you are tied into that shit.
I'm definitely not surprised by this. I'm just disappointed.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, no, I definitely am not surprised that this is the price point. The writing was on the wall, like I said. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, in the same way that from the PS4 Pro to the PlayStation 5, I wasn't jumping up for joy. Like, just gone are the days of getting this giant generational leap from console generation to console generation. Fucking the people over at Microsoft can say, like, we're working on something that's going to be this massive generational leap. No, it won't. It will not be.
Yeah.
It will, the games will look better. They'll probably run better, but you'll be comparing a game on the newer generation of consoles whenever they come out to this generation and be like, it's marginal. And we also have not gotten away from the vast majority of video games that are coming out being released on the last generation's hardware, right?
And that's where I was going before, where I think everything we had kind of hit a turning point. Like, if the next PlayStation, like after this one, you've got to be able to put the disc in from PS5 games, right? I feel like we've hit a turning point, and that really has to be there.
That's the rumor. There's been some rumors that have been circulating online that Sony is investing a large amount of resources into massive amounts of backwards compatibility.
So then you're tying yourself to that ecosystem, and the generations get real fuzzy.
Yeah.
And it's quickly welcome to the world of PC gaming.
Yeah.
Right. Like, where you're just moving sliders back and forth. And it's just kind of unfortunate, because I recognize that the draw of consoles was kind of that you didn't do that shit.
Right.
And they're going to make us do that shit, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. I mean, it's just getting less and less reasonable to not purchase a PC. I mean, from my perspective, you know what I mean? When the price points are as high as they are, and you can get an entry level computer that can do a lot more than these consoles can do for close to the same price, maybe a little bit more, and have a great time playing games. But you're missing out on a lot of those exclusives until you're fucking not missing out on any of the exclusives, because Sony's releasing most of them on Steam, and then Xbox has their Game Pass where you can play all the fucking games on the PC.
If you're patient, the Sony ones are coming over too at this point.
Right.
So like, you can just do it all on the PC. And
except for the game we're going to talk about today, I don't think that one's going to make it to PC. That would be strange.
That would be shockingly weird. But this first section's gone pretty long. Why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back. We're going to talk Space Marine, Astro Bot, all kinds of stuff. All right, we're back. I forgot to mention, we didn't have a video on the last podcast, mainly because I'm an idiot. So I just should put that out there. I ran out of hard drive space. Hadn't even dawned on me, right? And I went over there and had like 9 minutes recorded, because it hit the end of the hard drive and it was like, bloop, bloop. So
you live and you learn, and then you make the same mistakes.
Yeah, so that's I'm a little worried about that in another year when we but you download games, and then you don't promptly uninstall some, and that's basically what happened. But we got 900 gigs free, so we should be good now for a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry about that.
All 85 of you were probably very disappointed.
I don't care. I don't care which game we talk about first. I've got Space Marine 2 and Astro Bot, and they are both good games. You care which one we have?
No, it's fucking let it rip.
All right.
What do you want to talk about first?
Space Marine 2, probably.
Okay.
That's the one I played the most of. So Warhammer 40K. This is kind of a whole thing. I'm a little worried about talking about certain aspects of this game, because there is a following to this IP that is intense.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't even want to say anything negative about it, because people are crazy out there. But this is I want to call it like super grown up Gears of War, and just like this really fucking gritty ass shit. And I knew nothing about this coming into it. Somehow I just never touched any of it. Had you ever played anything about 40K?
Yeah, we played games together that are 40K.
Vermintide.
Vermintide was not 40K. Fuck. That's Warhammer, but like the high fantasy Warhammer.
This is the problem.
Yeah. So there are two, as far as I understand. We are not experts at all. But there's 40K, which is like the futuristic sci-fi version of Warhammer, and then there's just I think it's just Warhammer, right? And that's like more high fantasy type vibes. But yeah, we played that, and then there was that class shooter that we played that's in 40K. We played it last year, I believe. Kind of works like Vermintide. It's like kind of a mishmash of like Left 4 Dead with like classes in it. We played it pretty briefly, and then kind of both of us bounced off of it. We had issues where it was free on the Xbox app, and then some of us had it on Steam, so it was a whole fucking mess from that perspective.
Well,
you remember that, right?
Yeah. Very vaguely.
That's 40K as well.
I pushed it out of my memory quickly, but this one, there's two things that are going to bring you here. There's there's like a campaign, and then there's going to be multiplayer. I started with a single player campaign, and immediately I was just kind of like, kind of digging it. And it's not necessarily the tone that I would normally be drawn to. It is extremely like for the Emperor, like just very, very gritty, very I was talking to you the other night, and I was like, I don't think they made a joke like in the whole game. And I don't think I've played a game where there wasn't a single, like not a single joke made.
No jokes here.
I don't
it's
know.
It's a no joke zone.
Like seriously, like zero. It's just it is straight. It is if you've played Helldivers, it's like if Helldivers wasn't a joke. And it's just, that's just who you're rooting for.
There's definitely a lot of parallels between those two IPs, I would say.
Parallels, and it's like it's like their satire is them, basically, right?
Yeah.
But this thing functions really well. It's the third person, and throughout the whole campaign, it is just a really satisfying experience to play.
Yeah.
You've got this fucking chainsaw sword thing, and if you've played Gears of War, that you're gonna be somewhat at home here, but they do this really nice balance where as you have health and you have armor. As you lose health, doing damage brings back that chip damage onto your health bar, which is great. And then you can parry, and then you can get armor back by parrying certain attacks. And it's this really good system that forces you to just keep going, like constantly. You're never like playing defense on this game. It's always like, well, I just got to keep going. I'm going to swing this fucking hammer and hope I get another parry. And it feels really good. And a lot of times you're like right on the edge of dying for long periods of time. And it's a really good feedback loop. I think it's a pretty good campaign. Like, story's not breathtaking or anything, but you can follow it, and you know what you're doing, and you're like, yeah, let's go fucking do that shit.
Very old school in its execution. That was one of the reasons that it kind of appealed to me initially before I had played it. There was a lot of kind of turmoil with games in the last little bit with like Anthem God, I keep on saying Anthem. Fucking what is it called,
Conquered?
Nick? Conquered. God damn it. Why
both had turmoil?
Yeah, but yeah.
You just keep trying to dip
keep
back
on fucking doing it. I don't know
ago.
why my brain is broken. Maybe it's this 99 pineapples that got me all fucked up. Yeah, so like just a lot of turmoil in the gaming industry. And this just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's just a game. Like, it's a game-ass game where, it's got a very solid single-player campaign that feels very, very out of like the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era.
Mission-based, very little progression or no progression.
Yeah,
throughout the single player.
Correct.
It's just go play it. Yeah, you can choose which guns you take into a mission, but that's like a fucking it.
Yeah, I mean, it is very old school in its execution, but it's executed at a very high level, and the moment to moment gameplay is fucking crazy. Largely due to the enemies that you're fighting. The enemy, what is the alien race?
Tyranids.
The Tyranids you're fighting in this game, for all you fucking Warhammer nerds, you'll know exactly what that is. But they're like kind of like this hive mind species.
They're the Zerg.
Yeah, they're the Zerg. Yeah, and they come in these like massive waves. So early on in the game, there's a sequence where you're about to go into battle, and you literally just see this like sea of these these aliens coming at you, and they're all you can damage every single one of them, which is crazy. Like you won't do any damage to like the overall horde because there's just so many of them, so it's impossible to like take them all out. But they're there on the screen and they're all coming at you, and that initial sequence when you first see that, you're just like, holy shit. And that goes into what you were saying, right? Like where the gameplay is just very much focused on go go go, like keep on going, don't retreat and be defensive. Really, it's just like, kill as many of these things as possible. And that, just the amount of volume of enemies that you're fighting at one time kind of makes it so you have to play that way.
Absolutely.
Which is fucking sweet.
It's really good. It was kind of a refreshing palate cleanse a little bit to just play through that campaign. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
That's pretty short.
10. No, I don't know if it's 10 hours.
But I think that I was around 9 or 10 hours. Yeah.
I think it would. If it will say double that, then maybe I would be like, yeah, there should probably have been some progression. But as it is, I think I would play one of those things once a year and be like, hey, that was cool.
Yeah, I think it does a good enough job. I saw people comparing this to like a Halo campaign or something like that, and I don't know if it reaches the same level as some of those Halo campaigns from like at least the first 3. Those are pretty fucking epic, at least in my mind. But it does a good job at what it's trying to do. The character interactions are a little weird, and it is kind of, I mean, this is certainly not like budget by any means, but it's a little rough around the edges. The game looks really good, and some of those sequences that I just described with like tons of enemies coming at you, you're like, I can't believe my computer is not exploding right now, because it's just like, well, yours did.
One of my computers will not run it, and it hard crashes. So what's but that might be a computer problem. I gotta work on that.
There are sequences in this game that reminded me, like, and I know this is a crazy stretch, of like Vampire Survivors in terms of like the amount of enemies on screen, where you're like, how is this fucking thing running above 60 frames a second? Mine usually runs around 100 frames with this game, with everything cranked up to the max. And it's just impressive. But then also, like I said, like some of the facial animations are a little rough. Some of the dialogue is a little choppy. There's kind of like this interactions between like you and your team. You're like the team lead of the Space Marine group, and you run with these 2 dudes throughout the majority of the campaign. And one of them is like very skeptical of you and worried that you're like don't have the Emperor's best interest in mind. So there's a little bit of tension there, but largely I didn't like the writing and things like that. Didn't do much for me.
No, it doesn't do much at all. We mentioned that there aren't jokes, but there are some pretty just the way this thing functions, because they just play it straight, right? And they're just this gruff and tough group. And I was just playing it, just picturing you and I in this world, right? Okay. Like, and we're like, we gotta go, and I go and I find a new gun, and it's just like, the Emperor bless us. I will use this to slay our enemies in his name. And you're just like, who the fuck talks like that? Like, what the? It's just an AK. Like, what are you doing? Like, but the whole game's like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if you thank someone like with an emote in the multiplayer, sometimes he's just like, I will pray for you to the fathers. You're like, that's not a thing. What is this? Like, what, why are you the way you are? But it's like 40K. So it's a lot of years in the future. So maybe that's just what happens.
Yeah.
I guess. But I will say before we get into the multiplayer, the world intrigued me enough to literally start reading a book and listening to an audiobook, because I was just like, I'm not quite done with whatever the fuck is happening here. So I Googled, and because I knew there were books, and I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe you probably have a few trilogies I could read. 390 books or something like that is what it came up. And I was like, oh, all right, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, they license them all out, so there's just a shitload of authors living within this world, and the way that the whole lore works, it really just works out really well. But I have been reading one of them that falls in Inquisitor, and I it's a pretty good book. I am pretty happy about it. I'm a little stressed out because I looked at how long this sequence of books is, and it's a fuckload of pages. Uh, like the omnibus is what I got. Is like multiple, and I think it was like 1,400 total or something.
Good.
So but that's the book I'm reading. So I'm just gonna keep chipping away, and I've found it pretty interesting. It's just not none of those books are just like, hey, let me explain the world to you. So you just kind of keep learning slices of it and stuff like that. So but we will see. It's a fascinating thing. It's nice to try to understand what people see here, right? Because it's something that like I haven't obviously been involved in, but it's just like over there, and it's like, well, I'm a nerd. Well, I like that shit. I like StarCraft, and it seems like they just stole most of their shit from you.
Yeah.
So
you're one step away from painting miniatures at this point in time.
Jesus Christ, that would I can't imagine I'd be good at that, but
you would not be. I'm not good at it either, but you would not be. I can assure you.
Okay, great. But so you get through the single player, and it does something really cool with the multiplayer. There's a PvP and a PvE. We have not played PvP yet, unless you did today. But
I did.
Oh, okay, great.
I didn't do it today. I did it last night.
All right. Well, I really like what they did with the PvE. I just think it's a great idea. Throughout the single player missions, occasionally there is another squad doing something very important to the mission, and they're doing it off screen.
Yeah.
Tesserus or something like that. But anyway, you go through it and you don't really think about it during the single player campaign. But then the multiplayer PvE has 6 missions, and it's those fucking missions. So it does a really good job of filling in the gaps, and it really pads out kind of the story arc of the game really well if you're really interested in that stuff. So I like that idea. I think that people should probably look at that and see if they can use that in any of their games, because I think it's really good.
It's a pretty cool idea for sure.
But the way the PvE works is pretty simple. You just load into a mission, you run through it, and then once you're done with your objective, you're gonna get like currency, some cosmetic gear, and things to now be able to have progression. So progression is now opened up in the PvE mode, and I want to say I'm mixed. I'm having a great time playing the game. Like, it is fun to log in and play the game. I'm not just sold if this thing's gonna have legs for me, unless something changes. I just don't know. In another week, and you and I are still running the same missions, unless something changes, I just kind of feel like we're going to drop off. But we will see. We haven't moved up the difficulty yet, and we're just starting to kind of like work into the skill tree. And there's a lot there. There is a lot of stuff here. So there's plenty of things to be chasing. I'm just concerned about the content of the repeatable 6 missions.
Right. Yeah, no, there is a lot. It's kind of overwhelming, and it doesn't do a great job of explaining all of the systems that are in play.
I don't think it tries it in any way.
Yeah. So it's just like go and figure it out on your own. It's not super complicated when you kind of understand or get like the basics down. But yeah, so the 6 missions, they're lengthy. I mean, each one of the PvE missions are much longer than the single player missions. And they are obviously much more difficult if you play them with a team, at least.
A lot longer than any other PvEs we've done, or even like if you've like your Left 4 Deads and stuff, like just double it at least.
Yeah, it's long. They're long, but they're pretty compelling. Like, it's cool. Like, most of them end with a pretty epic boss fight. And that's cool. I did one last night after you got off that was like pseudo Destiny mechanics, where there were like these pane glass windows, and there were like runes on the pane glass windows, and you had to like activate consoles that corresponded with the panes of glass that were lit up at any given time.
You were like, I've been training all summer for this.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm fucking ready for this
bottom,
shit.
I'll fucking shoot dog bottom.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Fucking dog bottom. But yes, so they're throwing a little bit of that in there, very limited though. But yeah, it's fun to play the game. Like, PvE is awesome. I mean, it's much more challenging because you definitely have this like god complex kind of situation in the single player where you just feel like an unstoppable tank. I played on the normal difficulty.
I regretted playing on. I moved up to veteran, and I was like, man, I look so cool. And they, God, fucking, some of the heretics were super bullet spongy, and it was rough. And I regretted even attempting it. And I would never go back and play the higher difficulty on the single player because it's like, fuck that bullshit.
Yeah. But on the normal difficulty, it's pretty breezy. Like there was a couple of sequences that I struggled with, but nothing serious. But yeah, in the PvE, it's tough. I mean, it is definitely tough. I think I remarked to you last night. I was like, "You're a lot better at this game than me because you can see like your teammates' health, and I'm like always almost dead at all times." And so yeah, it definitely there's like a learning curve that you have to figure out. But overall, I think that they, in addition to the single player having this tacked on, or not even tacked on, but the multiplayer component of this, it's really kind of a full package.
Absolutely.
And if you're really into this, there is a lot of hours you could invest in it.
We should note that there's classes.
Yeah, like 6 or 7.
Once you go to PvE, you are picking a class, and one thing that happened to me is the way that this game functions. It's obviously you have a gun, but then it's melee heavy and it's parry heavy, and keyboard and mouse was not working with me at all. So I switched to controller, and then it clicked, and the melee stuff worked really well. And what that translated to is when I came into and was picking my class, I was like, the controller stuff's really working. I don't want to, I can't snipe with a controller. I fucking know that. I would have to switch. But there's I don't know if it's assault. I don't remember what it's called. I think it might be assault, but it's basically the tank. And I just have a pistol and a fucking huge ass sledge. And it's really satisfying. I really like it. I'm enjoying myself quite a bit. One problem, according to the internet, I am playing the worst one. And people are like, they got to fix this shit, which I don't, we don't know. We haven't gotten farther. I'm doing fine. Like when we get to our kill screens, I'm like, I got a fuckload of kills. Like and I'm not dying like any more than necessarily like normal. So I don't know what happens or what some of those other classes get that basically are going to make it be like my class is the wrong one, but I don't want to go restart. So I'm just fucking sticking with that one. And everyone kind of says it's a dud. I think it's a really good time though. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I messed around with a couple. The heavy, which is the first one that I played because I usually like big hulking characters, and that was not for me. Although I have seen that if you run like a full team of heavies with like a specific weapon, you can just melt things very, very easily as long as you've leveled up some of those weapons in the tree. So that seems pretty cool. They seem pretty strong
in PvP.
No, in PvE
you can't do similar. You can't have other classes. You have to.
I've seen it. I don't know how. I guarantee you, it was like the what is it? It's the Pulsar, I think. And it was like team of Pulsars takes down not the Leviathan, but what's like the big baddie.
I forget.
That has like the rebar sticking out of it. I watched a group of just heavies fucking melt that enemy. So I don't know how they did it.
I have no idea how that works because one of the things I've read about and experienced is you will literally load into a game and there's 2 assaults and it's like you can't launch the game. You have to have unique classes.
I wonder if they did like something like, is there a way to private match or something like that?
Maybe.
I don't know, because I definitely saw it and was like, this is ridiculous, because it was like a boss's health bar and it was just getting melted by these group of 3 heavies. But yeah, anyways, so I did the heavy first, didn't really like it. And then now I'm doing, I don't know the name of the class, but he's the grappling hook bro. And you grapple in enemies. It's pretty satisfying. Not tanky at all. I think most of the classes, I think the sniper in the class I'm playing has 2 bars of armor, whereas all the other classes have at least 3 bars of armor. So you got to be a little bit more careful. But it's a pretty good time. I mean, grappling in, doing, pretty heavy damage to enemies and then bouncing out is pretty satisfying. So yeah, I mean, the time that I played, which is fairly limited in PvE, has been a good time. I've really enjoyed myself. And like, at this point in time, I don't know if this is going to last. Right now, I'm like, I really want to continue playing this game. But yeah, again,
well, you can see your progression real easily too. And that's just that dangling thing out there. Every mission, you're kind of making progress. It's a little slower than I'd prefer, but It's fine. Like I am slowly getting through it. I just am seeing some of the other hammers I can unlock, and I'm like, fuck, I'm like 7 days from that if I play every
Man,
night.
this one's got a ribbon on it. I want it
It's
so
fucking
badly.
yeah,
Uh,
and there's some pretty good. I mean, the aesthetics are pretty good here. They they need to do it because of the following of this property of people like you said, where they're getting miniatures and painting them.
mhm.
If you're gonna let people customize stuff, you've got to do it right in this type of game. And from what I've seen, there's a pretty good variety here, and certainly they've laid the groundwork to keep adding to it if that's their plan to really support this thing. You've played PvP, then I have not. I haven't even hadn't have any interest in it, at least initially. So is there something redeemable over there? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's going to appeal to everyone, but it is pretty fucking fun. I played, I don't know how many matches. I probably played like 4 or 5 matches last
Mm,
night, and yeah, it's pretty tense. You can pick like different game modes out of the menu. I think there are like 5 or 6 game modes right now. Um, and yeah, it teams you up, and then you get after it. The PVE and the PvP progression are separate. So
yep.
if you've been playing PVE, you start from scratch in PvP, which was a little frustrating to me because I was like, I don't,
Yep.
god damn it, I don't want to use this shit.
But there is a separate level of progression that you will find over there.
Mm. And so that was cool. What was not cool is there's this trend going on viral on like social media right now, where one streamer got like a voice, it changed your voice essentially.
Mm.
I'm missing the name of what that is, but it gave this person the voice of like a space marine. So kind of sounds like Darth Vader. And when I saw the video, I was like, that's pretty funny. Like, and this guy is like saying very like true to what a space marine would say, some of the stuff that you highlighted, and it's funny, right?
He downloaded something third party and then
Yeah,
brought this in, so he sounds like one of them.
he sounds like a space marine in PvP.
That's
Talking
pretty,
to teammates.
that's pretty awesome.
But he was like saying all sorts of like
Well, yeah,
lore. Yeah, exactly. And people were laughing their asses off. Unfortunately, it has become very clearly viral because I was playing with a streamer last night that was also fucking doing it. And it drove me insane because he was not funny. He was just talking to his chat. And I mean, obviously, he didn't sound like that to his chat.
Thanks for the subscribe.
Yeah. But he was just like, oh, yeah, I got to work in a couple hours. But he just sounded like a fucking space marine. And I listened to it for like, I don't know, the first like minute or so of the match. And I was like, I am muting you. I don't even care if you're like giving me call outs. Like, I cannot listen to your dumbass fucking go with this. Like, come up with something on your own. Like, don't fucking copy other people, you fucking assholes. Like, I don't know. It's funny for one guy to do it. It's a very clever, smart thing.
It's super fucking funny. I would very much enjoy.
Yeah, you should go look at the
Tonight
video.
we died on Tyranid blood.
Yeah, exactly. That's the shit that this guy's doing. But then you get these other dorks that are like, yeah, I had some pizza for dinner tonight. Thanks for the fucking 5 bits. DGK 69. Like, what the fuck is going on? Man. Yeah, so that was annoying. But overall, I think that there are some compelling aspects to it. I don't know if it would be something that I would get really into. The time of kill is really short, which I like, generally speaking.
In PvP, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty it's pretty quick. Like, if you are out in the open and you get hit with like even like weapon fire and not like a sword or a melee weapon, your shield goes down pretty quickly and your health will drain quickly as well. So you kind of have to be sneaky with it. It's also like very dodge heavy. So like all these hulking fucking space marines are just like flopping around like it's Dark Souls, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I grappled into some fools into like middles of teams and then fucking wrecked people a couple of times last night, which was really satisfying. So I think there's something there. And it seems like a lot of people are playing it. We should add that people are just generally playing this game a lot. It sold incredibly well. And the peak concurrent player count, I think on Steam charts I saw was like over 100,000 people at one time were playing it. So that's pretty impressive for a game of this kind of scope and you know, from this IP. So pretty cool from that perspective to see. I think they deserve it. Like, this game's got a lot going for it, and it's a hell of a fucking good time, and just so brutal and visceral, and everything just feels super weighty. Like the combat feels weighty, and so when you grab a hold of a Tyranid or the other faction that's in the game, and you get a hold of them and like execute them, it's fucking brutal, dude. So
rip their head off and shit,
or stab them with their own sword arm or something like that through their head. It's crazy. So I'm pretty high on this thing. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great time, and just something new, something a little fresh, a little different than kind of what we have been talking about, I guess, in the last few months at least. And
so here's the last thing. I got a little drunk last night and went on Steam and found the original for $12. So I bought it.
Okay.
And I played it.
Did you finish it?
No, I didn't finish it. No, I played the first mission. And that game fucking kicks ass too. Okay. I mean, it's dated. I mean, it came out in the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era. It came out in 2008 or 2009. So it's pretty old. So it looks dated. It runs at my monitor's fucking highest refresh rate possible, which is sweet. And in that game, you're fighting orcs, which, God, I want orcs in this game. After playing the first one for a bit, I want orcs in this game because they are, like, the Tyranids are really cool. They are very cool and, like, menacing, and just the way they look is terrifying. But then the secondary class or
the heretics suck.
Faction, they're just not that great.
They're not.
They just look like Space Marines.
When they first show up in the single player campaign, they walk out and there's like 3 of them or something, and you're like, fuck, boss fight. And then it's like, no, this is the cannon fodder. And it's like, fuck, this cannon fodder fucking blows. Yeah. Like I thought it was going to be this difficult thing to come through. And I don't like them. I don't like the design of them. That other race is just not it. And it's a huge fucking part of the lore, right? They are absolutely integral to probably most stories. I bet they show up in Space Marine 1. I'd be shocked if they're not.
So we were talking about it because there's like this kind of cliffhanger at the end of the campaign in 2 where I don't remember the guy's name, but
he's in there.
He takes his helmet off, and Titus, the main character, is like, Leandros, and he's like, I have my eye on you, or some shit like that. And then you get on a spaceship, which is like leading up to a sequel, obviously. But right out of the fucking gate, Leandros is in the first one, so he's like your team member. So it makes a little bit more sense playing for that. Here's the thing I will say. I kind of like the movement more in the first game. So I went and mapped the controls exactly to the way that it plays in 2, just so it felt fresh or exactly the same. And Titus in the first game runs a lot faster.
Well, that's nice.
He's super fast, right?
He's older. He's literally 100 years older, though, so he's slowed down a bit.
Okay. So. I just I don't hate the movement in 2 at all. But when you compare it, like the first game, he's fucking moving at a good clip, man. Also, the melee, it might feel better in the first game, in my opinion. Crazy. Like last night when I was fucking cutting up orcs, he moves like super fast in his like melee abilities. I was like, God damn, the shooting is definitely better in the second one. But yeah, and then just fighting orcs, they're very cool. They're just I mean, who doesn't like a fucking orc? You know what I mean? Absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, it's very funny though, because it's got very much like 2008 HUD elements that I'm just like, this seems like when somebody pretends to make a game for like a TV show or something like that, and you're like, this is not a real game. That's kind of how I felt with the HUD elements. Like there's a armor and health bar at the top, and it covers the entire top of the screen. And it's just like so bad looking. It doesn't look good at all. And then you also have like the Super Saiyan go berserk mode after you fill up a gauge, like which is in the second one as well. That feels better too. When you activate it in the first game, he fucking goes crazy and just starts fucking cutting orcs up into pieces, and it just feels really good. So I understand why so many people were a fan, because there's a lot of fans of the first game. And you know, after playing it, I'm like, this is like, even though it came out a long time ago, this is a pretty fucking good time.
Nice. Very nice.
I tried to get into PvP and
no one's playing.
Right?
Shocking.
Yeah, I didn't make it.
Okay. All right. Well, if we can talk about literally the polar opposite, we can talk about
This game can be brutal too at times.
we talk about Astro Bot, which uh, is a love letter to the PlayStation, and
I think it's a love letter to video games in general.
sure, but generally, video games that have shown up on a Sony platform, I guess. But
true.
they this thing is extraordinarily highly rated. I believe it's the number 3 platformer on Metacritic, behind like Mario Galaxy 2 and Odyssey, and for good reason. This thing,
one of those deserves to be there.
The second,
and one of them does not.
I didn't like
looking
Galaxy
at you,
either.
Galaxy. Game sucks.
But this game feels like the second you start playing it, you're just like, oh well, this is just exactly what they wanted me. This game functions exactly how they wanted it to, and it functions flawlessly. It as far as like how it runs and how like just generally in my experience with kind of the physics and everything, I'm just frequently like, this thing's really, really impressive, and it's an enormous amount of fun. I intend to finish it because it came out a while ago. The problem that happened is my daughter saw it, and she's very into it. So I have not been playing it unless we're playing it together, and we literally pass the controller back and forth, and it works really well. Yeah, because there are at least in the missions, I'm into the third world, the third star system, or whatever. And up until that point, there's a lot of checkpoints, and it's very fast to load back in. So there's no consequence. Like, I hand it to her, she punches some bullshit, she jumps on a few things, then it gets hard, or she dies, then she hands it back to me, and we've just been working through the levels and really having a great time. I just today I did a level that was the God of War level.
Very cool.
The thing that is really notable that they've done here is that a lot of these levels have their own little hook, or I guess every level has their own hook. And you open a chest and you're just like, well, what's going on here? It's like, well, this is the God of War level, so you've got the fucking axe,
the Leviathan axe,
and it functions more or less how it does in God of War, where you throw it and you bring it back, and there are puzzles and mechanics that utilize that. And
there are crows to kill in the environment.
I know, we missed fucking one, and I found the area where you need, like, if you get all the crows, I'm assuming the doors can open or something.
You just get an achievement. You get a trophy for doing it.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, we missed one, but it's been a great time. I'm really enjoying it. I will end up beating it. I think I have 70 or 80 boss or something, and there's 300 total. So slowly making my way through it. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. If I was to criticize it, I would just say it's not the type of game that I generally want to be playing. And it's a great game, and I really enjoy it, but I like the game we just talked about with progression or some sort of like the numbers, the stats. So just like, generally speaking, this is not the type of thing that grabs me and says, you want to come and play this, but I pretty much love it, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I generally agree with you. I think that this game is nearly perfect from what I played. I'm a little bit further than you. I have one more world to do.
Okay.
I have like 200 bots. So that's a big thing to talk about this game. So there's a hub world. The whole premise of the game is ridiculous and stupid, but you are on a PlayStation 5, which kind of pairs into like the tech demo that was bundled with the PlayStation 5 at launch. And the PlayStation 5 in this game is called the Mothership. And an alien comes and steals components from the PlayStation 5, stranding you on this planet. And the whole purpose is you're getting different components from the various worlds and slotting them into the PlayStation 5 so it will take off again,
like
presumably.
Your hard drive.
Right.
And shit. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it is hilarious. But in order to do this, you in each environment in the game, there are like X amount of these bots. So some of them just look like Astro Bot, the character you're playing as, and then other ones are themed after various different intellectual properties in gaming that have at one point been on a Sony platform.
Parappa the Rapper.
Parappa the Rapper's there, which was a Sony, that's a first party title. So that one is like, yeah, that makes sense. But there are, crazy cameos here,
Okami.
anything that you can, Okami's here. Lots of Capcom games, Street Fighter characters are in this, Tekken characters are in this, Yakuza characters or Like a Dragon characters are in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's crazy, dude. There is just a lot of fan service to various video game franchises over the years. Now, I have seen some criticism of this mechanic in the game because you rescue them in the environments in the individual levels, and they come back to the planet, and then there's kind of like this Pikmin-esque vibe where there are various obstacles strewn about the home world or hub world that requires you to have like X amount of bots to remove a rock or build a bridge or something like that, right? So that incentivizes you to get more of these bots in the environments. But I've seen criticism of like the bots that are, designed after various video game characters, because they don't really do anything once you get them. They just kind of mull about the open space in the hub. And there is a gacha machine, which is infuriating sometimes, that you unlock at a certain point in time after you get a certain amount of puzzle pieces, which are another collectible in the levels. And at that point, you can start spending the coins that you collect on pieces or items that kind of accentuate the characteristics of the individual characters, right? So Teddy from Persona is in the game. And when you get Teddy, he's just fucking there, Teddy. And then if you get the gacha, you get the TV from the Midnight Channel, right? And all you do is walk up to Teddy and you fucking punch him. And once you have unlocked the TV, he'll get like sucked into the TV. So there's like this like baked in animation for every character that highlights some element of the game that they're from. I personally think that it's brilliant, and I've loved every second of like finding the different characters and trying to figure out what franchises they're from, how many franchises I recognize. And then there are some where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, there have been some where I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. But people have said there's just not enough. They don't do enough. And I'm like, what the fuck did you want him to do? Did you want to like go and punch one of the monkeys from Ape Escape? And then it's like, now I get to play Ape Escape, which would be sweet. Don't get me wrong. But like already this is a licensing nightmare. And I really don't know how Sony and Team Asobi was able to pull this off, just because there are so many IPs that are not first party Sony titles that are here. So like the amount of money they had to spend on licensing has got to be pretty large. So I actually really love it. And that's been like the driving factor for me to play through the game, is because I just want to see, I want to unlock them all. I want to see all the things that is available. There has been some shocking inclusions as well, where I'm like, I cannot believe that this is in here. The last that shocked me was fucking Mr. Mosquito from Mr. Mosquito, which was like a super obscure game that we've talked about, I believe, where you just played as a mosquito pestering a Japanese family in Japan. It was a super budget game that came out on the PlayStation 2, and young Jared loved it.
It's super smart to do those everything, right? Like you've got your heavy hitters in there, and then you've got these other things. If you're going to write a love letter to gaming or whatever you're doing here, like you really need to dig deep so that the people that are super into it are really rewarded and are like, absolutely, this is awesome. I can't believe they have that. That is super random.
It is super random, and it's just been just joyous every single time I found a character that I'm like, I cannot believe this character is in here. But like, that's all they really do. And for me, that's enough, because that's not really I mean, it is a big part of this game and a compelling aspect of the game for me personally, but it doesn't really affect gameplay in like meaningful ways. And so people are like, this is just a corporate fucking mishmash of bullshit, and I hate it. And I'm like, dude, like, just have fun. Just have some fun.
You sound fun at parties.
Yeah. You sound like a great, like fun person. But like the actual platforming in this game, I think, is nearly perfect. And so being in the company of Mario Odyssey and that other game, Galaxy, That game's fine. I will say that game's fine. Motion controls fucking suck.
Sure.
And I also feel that motion controls fucking suck in this game as well. No more motion controls. Stop it. Stop fucking doing it.
There have been frequent times where I don't fully understand what I'm supposed to be doing with the controller.
God.
How do I turn upside down? What am I doing?
Motion controls are not a good time.
Yeah.
They never work as they're supposed to. It's always just a slightly off to the point where it just does not feel intuitive. It's shitty. Stop fucking using tacking on motion controls in games. It's not fun. I'm never like, oh, I would rather move my hands back and forth rather than just doing this on the analog stick or the D-pad. It's fucking garbage.
The dumbest shit is just like, yeah, we're gonna be a blow into the controller. It's just like, what are we doing here?
I mean, I like that one because that's a throwback to like the original Famicom actually had like a microphone that you could blow into and things like that.
Fucking sucks.
Which is random, but like you think about it, it's like, wow, like the Famicom had it, like that, and we're like, other people are probably like, you get to blow in this. This is such a novel thing, and it's like they've been doing that since fucking the 80s, bitch. But anyways, there are certain elements like that, like the motion control things I just don't like in this game. But when you're actually controlling the little bot and you're platforming, the platforming is nearly perfect. I say nearly because it's not completely perfect. The further I've gotten into this game, I've gotten slightly frustrated with some of the platforming in relation to the camera. The camera pans a little too slowly for me. And so the game will also force the camera into specific angles for whatever you're trying to do, which generally I don't like that in games. Like if you're going to give me a 3D platforming game, I want control of the camera at all times. And you do have control of it, but it's like the camera will face to the side profile of Astro Bot, right? And it's like, well, no, I want to look a little bit to the left, and the game will let you do it, but it's almost like the game's like, you shouldn't be doing this, and it kind of fights you, which I'm like, that doesn't feel great, but that's fairly limited. Like most of the time it works really well. And yeah, just the level of creativity in each individual level. You highlighted the God of War level, but it continues to do that from there on out. Each world, the final world, to get like whatever component for the PlayStation 5 will transport you into one of Sony's major first party titles, and you assume the role of that character, and there are different mechanics. The last one I did was super cool. I think you'll get a kick out of it as well. Very similar to the God of War one. I think a little bit better than the God of War one. So that's cool. But aside from those levels, just the levels leading up to that are incredibly diverse. Most of them have a hook, like you described. Not all of them, but most of them. Sometimes it's reused, but I've been like, when are we going to get to the end of the kind of like novel mechanics that this level specifically requires? When are we going to like start reusing some? And that happens a little bit, but up to this point, which I'm pretty close to the end of this game, you're continually getting new ones. So you're constantly like, this is fucking awesome. I really love this. This is a fucking incredibly brilliant, creative idea. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. I think it's great.
It's pretty crazy because it's a whole mechanic designed for a small amount of levels or one level.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I can't believe this thing even exists. Like there's a casino level where you can basically stop time.
That one's great.
And the way that they make you stop time and then platform is just a really good idea. It works really well. And I thought it was a lot of fun. And I got like fucking no bots from that level. I don't know what the fuck I did wrong. I got like 2. And I got to usually I get most, right? And I got to the end and I was like, what the fuck did we do today, Ava? we blew it. She gets real excited because you go punch the stupid. You see a bot, you go and literally you're like, hey, you punch them in the face. And then they're like, see you at home.
Yeah. And then they jump into your fucking PlayStation controller. Yeah, it all works really well. It looks great as well. It's gorgeous in a lot of ways. And it's just so diverse from level to level. They deserve a ton of credit for that. So you described where you're at. You should have encountered face button levels. Well, you just missed them then. They're in the individual galaxies that you've explored already, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to fly around the environment. And if you fly in specific areas on those like individual maps of the
Mhm.
levels, things will happen, and then you'll interact with one of the face buttons. X,
Okay.
circle, square, or triangle, and then that will open up for challenge levels for that individual galaxy. And oh man, are those fucking brutal, man. Some of them have taken me 30 to 45 minutes. Some are easier than others.
Why
But
is it called the face button levels? What is the mechanic we're doing here? Like what?
well, they're called the face button levels because that's not like that's not like a official term. I'm just using that because that's what it is for me, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like you're flying in one of these individual galaxies and you'll run into like an asteroid. You crash into the asteroid, and then the X button will like it's an anthropomorphic X button
Sure.
with little eyeballs.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then you do like a small mission for them. And once you do that mission, then four different X buttons will fly into the map, and then you literally fly into the X button, and it's a challenge mission.
Do you get bots from those or no?
You get no bots from them.
Okay, so those are just
Wait, you get one bot. I take that back. Every
if
single
you finish it.
challenge, yeah, you get one bot for it.
So those are I mean, this is for the completionists, and these are no fucking joke.
They're hard as balls, and it is shocking because mostly this game is pretty much a breeze. Like
Yeah,
it
you
is. It's pretty easy and nice, but that's not a knock. Like it's the creativity, elevates it, and so it's not like, oh, I'm not challenged by this. You'll be challenged by these, I guarantee you. They're all kind of different, or there'll be a series where it's like, I think the first ones you do are triangle, and then square is the next ones that you find in the next galaxy, and they'll might be like a continuation where it's like armadillo rolling. There's these ones that are particularly infuriating to me where you get on an armadillo and you ride it and it rolls and you have to balance on the armadillo, and every element of the level is a hazard, so there's spikes everywhere. But the armadillo has momentum, so it's kind of like super monkey ball. You kind of have to balance,
Huh.
and things are fucking moving all over the place. And what makes it particularly challenging is there's no checkpoints, so if you die, you start from the beginning. You got to do it over again. They're not super long, but they are packed full of sequences that you really kind of have to master each individual sequence in order to beat the overall challenge level. Yeah, which I actually like that because it's like not in the moment where I'm like, this is bullshit. This is absolute garbage. I've died to this fucking 30 fucking times and this is just garbage. This sucks. But then like I start thinking to myself, I calm myself down and I'm like, okay, so how do I actually approach this? Like I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this and I've failed. There's got to be a way to figure this out. So like just breaking it down and really kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't is satisfying. But it's a serious time investment on some of those. Like, again, there have been a few where I've done in like 2 or 3 tries. And then there are a few that have taken me close to an hour to finish, right? So they are no joke. And it's just like, it came out of left field because it's just like, I'm breezing through this fucking thing. And then they come in and you're like, oh my God, these are very hard.
It sounds like a great way to do it, to add that to this game.
Yeah.
To have that challenge on a platforming system that is like controls really well. So it's nice that that's there. And then I believe they are adding time trial missions as well.
Yeah.
Down the road, because people really liked that in the previous one. I don't know what it's called, Astro Rescue Mission or something.
Astro's Playroom.
That one had a lot of time trials and people really like those leaderboards and things like that. So some of that stuff is coming in unique levels, not the current ones that exist, which makes sense because the current ones are not necessarily built for, they don't feel like they're built for a time trial type platforming experience. And I would hope that they would just throw something out that is platforming heavy, nonstop bangers. And that'll be interesting to see. I'm really just having a great time with it. I think I expect to beat it just because Ava's super into it. Like she just is, really enjoys it, and it's very funny. And she just remembers everything, like all the names of the bosses. Oh, she knows. She knows all the names, and then she'll just be like, "Well, that one wasn't as bad as fucking taco or whatever that there was some.
That's a great boss fight where the octopus with the boxing gloves. That's a fun one.
The taco, the like the pirate, and it's really been rough because like I've been playing games for a long time. She might not realize that, but like I will lose to a boss, and she will turn to me, and put her hand on my forearm, and be like, "It's okay, Dad. You can get him next time." And I'm like, "I don't need your fucking. I know I'm gonna get it. I don't need what." Stop it.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Well, that's adorable. I'm glad that you guys are having a good time with it. I too, me and my dog are having a great time with it. He's not as much of a help as Ava probably is, but it's a great game. It's dude, I don't know where I'm gonna fall on it when it's all said and done, but right now I am incredibly high on this thing. And before release, I was like, it's not like I wasn't excited about it because I saw people that had played it before release and they were like, there's something here. This thing seems special. But the Astro Bot thing, I know that they've made like 3 games now. At this point, it's never really appealed to me personally, but I am a believer now. Okay, I'm an Astro Bot believer.
Final thing is my only issue is that when you have, at this point, for at least the last 2, they've just tied themselves to this brand of like nostalgia. Like the games just bleed this nostalgia. And it's like, I feel like, who makes this game?
Team Asabi.
I feel like they need to not do that.
They've only made Astro Bot games.
So I know the problem is the nostalgia. The problem is that like they just like, so in another 3 years or 4 years, they're gonna make another game that's the same type of like obsessive nostalgia. Are we gonna be on the PlayStation 6 now? Like at a certain point, I'm just like, you need to like break free of that maybe, or like have some variation, or then come back to it in 8 years or something. I'm just like, I don't know that if every 3 to 4 years you release a game where I'm flying around on whatever the current PlayStation is.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, is that really what we're doing?
Yeah.
That's still what we're like, it's fine, I guess. Like you have a great play. You don't need it all the time. Like it's awesome. Yeah. I'm playing through this. I'm enjoying it. But it's just like, am I gonna unlock Snake in the next one too? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, it'd be cool if they could branch out and do something else, but I think that maybe is unlikely. I don't think that this thing is sold particularly well. From the last thing that I saw, I didn't read too much into it, but there was an article headline that was like, it's not doing as well as they would have hoped. But like, that seems like the fucking standard fucking statement from every developer.
Unless it's Baldur's Gate.
It's like, I don't know if it's doing enough. But it'd be cool if they could branch out, but I also don't think it's very likely because fucking Astro Bot is literally in their logo. Their team logo is just Astro Bot.
You can stick with Astro. I think you need to consider not making an entire Astro game also just always be about that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, and Sony's a weird one where like, and I guess Microsoft doesn't really have it. I mean, Master Chief maybe would be the mascot for Microsoft's platform.
Master Chief's Playroom.
Yeah. But like Nintendo obviously has Mario, and Sony has just kind of been unique because they've had like a lot of mascots over their history, right? Like it was Crash Bandicoot at the beginning. And then like Spyro to a lesser degree was kind of like in that camp and like associated with Sony products. And now it's like, are they hitching their wagon on Astro Bot? Like he's cute and everything like that, but is he as visually as appealing as like fucking Mario? I don't think so. No. I don't think you can put Astro Bot on like lunch pills and t-shirts and fucking make movies with Astro Bot on it and still have like the same kind of appeal across the board like Mario does, or Master Chief for that matter.
Yeah.
Remember when Master Chief was in Dead or Alive? Actually, I take that back. It wasn't Master Chief. It was a Spartan was in Dead or Alive.
What?
Yeah. I don't know what Dead or Alive, but there was a Spartan in Dead or Alive, and it was the dumbest shit ever.
That sounds great. I bet it was amazing.
Yeah. Apparently it was a female, I think. Which I didn't know that there were female Spartans.
Me either.
But I'm pretty...
maybe there was a female in Reach.
Yeah.
I don't remember all those.
Or ODST, but those weren't Spartans, were they?
Reach was, but ODST was not.
Right. Yeah. At any rate, it's the stupidest shit ever. And you should go look up videos of the Spartan fighting scantily clad, big breasted women.
Okay. I will go and Google that incognito. All right, that's probably gonna do it. Unless you've got anything else you'd add to Gamescast 142.
No, that does it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Fantastic. Hey, you should come and join the Discord. There should be a link at the YouTube page, or if you are listening on just the audio in the show notes, there should be a handy link there. Come on, join the Discord. Come in and tell us what you're playing. That's gonna do it. That's Gamescast 142. Thank you guys.